Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.
Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Sarah Fensky. St. Louis has long been credited as the best baseball town in America, and that distinction is about far more than the St. Louis Cardinals or even the St. Louis Cardinals and the St. Louis Browns. St. Louisans have been playing baseball since 1860 in amateur leagues and semi-pro ones, in the Negro Leagues, and also for hundreds of young people who grew up here, yes, in the major leagues. And that rich history is the subject of Ed Wheatley's new book. It's called Baseball in St. Louis, From Little Leagues to Major Leagues. And Ed joins us today to discuss it. Ed Wheatley, welcome to the show.
Glad to be back. Look forward to it.
So, Ed, we talk a lot about the high school question here in St. Louis, but you say in your book that where did you play baseball can be just as revealing. How so?
Well, it tells you about what teams you were on, how good your teams were. It just kind of it's like gauging the enemy, if you will. It's like, you played baseball. How good are you? What club were you with? Who'd you play with? It's all those same kind of identifying questions people ascertain when they ask, where'd you go to high school? It's just a parallel.
So for you and your fellow baseball lovers, you're sizing each other up in that exact same way.
Absolutely. Tells you a lot about you.
So speaking of high schools, you identify one locally as producing more future major leaguers than anywhere else for a very long period of time. What was the deal at Beaumont High School?
Well, yeah, it was Beaumont High School. It was the late 40s and early 50s. There were more men in the major leagues from Beaumont High School. They had this outstanding coach, Ray Elliott, and it was known as the baseball factory, really across the country, because there were so many great ball players, and not only so many that made it to the majors. In those days, there was also the reserve clause, and there were many, many men that were stuck in the minor leagues because they couldn't, come up to the major leagues, nor could they leave another team. At one point, in like 8 years, 54 men signed professional contracts from Ray Elliott's baseball team. So, but the irony of it too is the story about Beaumont High School was where it sits today on Van de Venner and Natural Bridge, just a few blocks up from Sportsman's Park, right across the street from Fairgrounds Park. But on the site of Beaumont High School was the old Cardinals stadium called Robeson Field, and the Cardinals played in there from 1893 through 1920 when the stadium became condemned because of fires, the old days men smoking cigars. And the Cardinals moved and became tenants of the Browns down in Sportsman's Park a few blocks away. So the mystery, maybe that in the ashes of the fires in the infield there at Beaumont High School, there was something special that led to all this great baseball. But a lot of it is really a credit to Ray Elliott.
Yeah, so it's like, should we credit the soil or should we credit Ray Elliott? Maybe a little of both. I love how mystical baseball fans can get when they talk about this stuff.
Yes, that's true. It is true.
And among their famous alumni, I understand the great Earl Weaver. He never made it to the major leagues as a player, but he was obviously a huge deal as a manager. He's among the alumni. Who else there would you point to as a name that modern baseball lovers might remember?
Well, Dick Williams, another manager. He was a World Series manager. He's a Hall of Famer. He played in the majors as well as managed most specifically the Red Sox and the Oakland Athletics. Roy Sievers was a great ball player. He was the first American League Rookie of the Year. The first time they had a Rookie of the Year in the American League in 1949, he was there. We had guys like Lee Thomas, Lloyd Merritt, Buddy Blackner was another one who was a player with the Cardinals and a longtime announcer of the Cardinals. And, Bobby Hoffman, Bobby Miller, Pete Reeser, the list is endless of these great players.
So Beaumont High School, it officially shut down in 2014. Are St. Louis area high schools still a source of major league talent today?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there throughout this history, there were men, we just did an article, and there was in the Post-Dispatch, you saw about Frank Baumann with Ben Hockman about his teams in Central High School when they won 3 straight years. Today, we come out to Lafayette. High School is one of the big predominant ones, and people, resonate with David Freese and Scarborough Green, Ryan Howard, or Luke Voigt, who was with the Cardinals and is now over with the Yankees. I mean, it's always been this history. You start with the city, you had suburban migration In the 60s, it was Rittner High School. Had Jerry Royce and Ron Hunt, and University City had Ken Holtzman, Art Shamsky. And then don't forget over in Illinois, we go with Dal Maxwell from Granite City, Whitey Herzog from New Athens, and many, many more.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite a remarkable history. And Ed, I got to say, you have your fingertips on all these details. It's every time I talk to you, I'm just blown away. If you're listening to our conversation and you're also blown away by Ed's knowledge or just want to know more, we want to encourage you to join us. Ed is happy to take your questions. And we also want to know, what is your fondest memory of baseball in St. Louis? You can give us a call at 314-382-8255. That's 382-TALK. Or you can send us a tweet at STL On Air or email us at talk@stlpublicradio.org. Now, Ed, I actually put this question to our St. Louis on the Air Facebook group this morning. That's a group that if anybody wants to join this group, it's a members-only group, but you just have to ask. And we let you write in, and then you can talk to us as we prepare for the day's show. We often pose questions to our listeners there. And Joshua wrote in reply to that question, he said, folks growing up here about my age and older were so lucky to see Willie McGee and Ozzie Smith do things only they could do. My dad took me to the game when Mark McGwire tied the single-season home run record. It was a September game, almost my birthday, against the Cubs. McGwire had a 1-1 count with 2 outs in the first inning, and he crushed a deep pitch past left field off Mike Morgan. He also says the entire 2011 postseason was magic. Chris Carpenter versus Roy Halladay, the National League Division Series Game 5 is my favorite baseball game ever. 2 of the greatest pitchers at that time played their absolute best, and of course Game 6 that same year. What would you point to as being your favorite baseball game of all time, Ed?
Well, I mean, just what Joshua talked about is what I get all the time from these people. This history of baseball games, watching, listening. You can go back to the early 1900s when they had the Browns and the Cardinals. We had something very special here in St. Louis because, unlike other cities, we had 2 teams, an American League and national team. So I hear stories of Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Bob Feller. Probably I was at pretty much all those same games Joshua was at. Probably the most interesting game or most memorable game in my life was in September 29, 1963, when Stan Musial retired, going to his last game. And
oh, wow.
All the emotion in the stadium and the farewell of this is the last game of one of the greatest men who ever played the game.
Yeah, and, that must have just been amazing. You must have had chills seeing him say goodbye.
Oh, yeah, and I was young at that time, but I started going to games in the late 50s and early 60s, and there wasn't TV games on every night. It was just often 1 or 2 a month, and just to see Stan the man and some of the other players from other teams, whether it's Roberto Clemente or Willie Mays. I mean, you grow up. These were your heroes. They were the ones you wanted those baseball cards in your baseball card collection, and you would trade or buy lots of bubblegum cards so you could get these guys.
Mm-hmm. Joshua, who wrote on our Facebook page, he added one more thought here. He says, I know this sounds petty considering all the ways the coronavirus pandemic has changed life, but baseball is what I've missed the most. Ed, what has that done to you, the fact that we're having this unprecedented year where we don't even have baseball going on?
Well, I mean, it's tough. You want to watch it, and as you and I spoke, and I play in senior leagues across the country. I play over 100 games last year, and I was down in Florida playing when the shutdown came, and I'm missing playing, I'm missing watching, and this is 2 parts. I can open the book. Everybody has seen the movie Bull Durham, and Annie Savoy opens the book as she's walking to the stadium, and she's narrating about how she's tried all the religions, but the Church of Baseball is the religion that fills her soul day in and day out. And that's really what St. Louis, baseball is our religion, and opening day is our national holiday. And we basically have missed our national holiday by not having baseball. And, for so many people, and you look at this time of the virus, and we talk about this in the book, these people are in their 80s and 90s, and I do a lot of talks at retirement homes just to kind of give back for the success I've had about baseball. And these people live through the poverty and constraints that we don't even realize today in this virus during the Great Depression, not knowing anything if they had money for food. Mm-hmm. And then that was followed by World War II and all the rationing, shortages, men going off and getting killed in war. But baseball was the constant. That is the happiest point for so many people's lives, that they remember against the harsh times of what the conditions were they lived in. They remember baseball, and Franklin Roosevelt's the one who said, we're going to have night baseball so people have something to come home and relax after working long days in the factories trying to get through this. Mm-hmm. We don't have that right now. We don't have that. And in those times, baseball was it. I mean, there wasn't the competition from hockey and basketball and football that we see today, or TV and video games. Baseball was the sole thing, and we're missing it. And we hope these guys can get this stuff all ironed out and then start playing the game again.
Start playing ball again, yeah. Well, in the meantime, I do want to recommend Ed's book. It's a great trip down memory lane. If you're missing baseball, he's got it all here, all these different leagues that played in the area. The book is called Baseball in St. Louis, From Little Leagues to the Major Leagues, and the author is Ed Wheatley, who is here with us today. I want to go to the phone lines, and I do want to encourage you, if you have a question or just a great baseball memory you want to share with us, you can give us a call at 314-382-8255, 382-TALK. Harry is calling from University City. Harry, hi, you're on St. Louis on the air.
Oh, hello. Ed will be able to comment on this. Ed, one of my best memories of Cardinal baseball is the number of times that Stan the Man would end games, hitting a home run over the right field pavilion with Harry Carey screaming at the top of his lungs.
There she goes. It might be.
Why don't you talk a little bit about Harry Carey also, could you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that is one of the – well, I'm going to add one point, too, about Stan Musial. You made the key point. He had to hit it over the pavilion in right field because there was an 11-foot wall and a 23-foot screen across the pavilion, and that's why Musial only wound up with 475 home runs, because you had to hit it out onto Grand Avenue to get a home run, and that's why he would just constantly hit doubles into that screen because, it didn't go into the seats like at other parks. So, but Harry Carey, Jack Buck, Dizzy Dean, Buddy Blattner, Franz Locke, St. Louis had this tremendous team of announcers that brought baseball to people. They taught kids, and adults, this is the game. I mean, I remember Harry Carey, who, I have met in earlier times. I knew his son and daughter-in-law, and, would talk about how Harry would tell you when he first got the job, he came and told the radio station and the Cardinals, you're not painting this picture right. People at home. And you think about this today, as you watch it on TV or on radio. Harry's monologue, how he talked, it was, you should be sitting at home in a chair. You could close your eyes and see what happened. This was a Harry Carey. The pitcher toes the rubber, looks in, gets his sign, checks off. There's the windup, the stretch, the pitch. And then if Stan Musial is batting, it would usually be, there she goes, way back. It might be, it could be, it is. That was Harry Carey. And you see, you paint that picture in your head, and whether you're an adult or as a child, you saw it. And as a child, then, you try to emulate that. I mean, you could be playing baseball in Khoury Leagues. We can talk about that in a moment, too. The St. Louis, great history of the granddaddy of all little leagues, the Khoury League. You would emulate, okay, I'm the pitcher, I'm on the mound, check the signs. I mean, the picture was painted in your head.
Yeah, Harry did an amazing job of that. And Harry, calling about Harry Carey in University City, I want to thank you for that call. That's a great jog down that memory lane. I want to go to the phone lines. Angela is calling from St. Louis. Angela, hi, you're on St. Louis on the air.
Hi, thanks. I agree with Ed. St. Louis is a baseball town, and the St. Louis Cardinals have especially been generous to some St. Louis community organizations and those less fortunate. But I just want to share from my own experience raising two boys as a single mom. Very often, unless somebody gave us tickets, a baseball game was out of reach for our family. And I wish that baseball was more in reach of families who don't have the extra disposable income.
Angela, I think you make a great point. I mean, baseball used to be so affordable. You could get a ticket for like $3, $4. These prices have gone through the roof. Ed, any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. You talk about. I mean, yeah, I remember when tickets in the bleachers were 50 cents. I still have all these ticket stubs in my collection, and it was more affordable. And you got to put things into some perspective. I mean, they are, to think of a family of four going to a ball game, between parking and the price of tickets and any concessions. And, it's interesting that we talk about 3 million today in draw is, that's a thing of it started in the 1980s. You would go back into the 20s, 30s, and 40s, a 400,000 would be a good year, because there was always, people trying to afford, and especially during the Depression, can I afford to go to a game or not, or do I have food? But there used to be, it seems, more community events and children. I mean, I look around and and see baseball today. For a lot of the millennials, it's a social event. They go to the game and they built these beer gardens in there. And I'm one of the few nuts that you'll see in the stands keeping score. I always keep score when I'm at the ball game. It's just something I grew up doing. I always joke with the Cardinals that scorecards used to be 10 cents. Now they're like $2.50. I would give scorecards away. Many stadiums do when you come in. I know I was just up at Washington and the Nationals. You come in, you get a scorecard, get engaged in the game. So we need to have the kids, as she mentioned, back involved in wanting and watching and just dreaming of playing baseball. And the best way to do it is to be there watching a game.
I think we have time for just one more call. And Angela, thank you for that call. Butch is calling from Phoenix. Butch, hi, you're on St. Louis on the Air.
Hi, how you guys doing?
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Awesome. What's your baseball memory?
Well, my first Cardinals game, I'm not from St. Louis, but my son's mom was from St. Louis, and when we got pregnant, we moved back to St. Louis so she could be around family. And I went to my first Cardinals game in '98 with the home run chase, the year of the home run chase. And I got to see that game, the last game before the All-Star break. And Big Mac hit a home run, landed right down in front of us. And we were pregnant with what I knew was going to be my son. And during the game, I was watching a father with his young son down in front of us, and they were having such fun. And I couldn't wait till me and my boy would be going to games. And I was hooked ever since. And I've been a huge Cardinals fan. I still am. I'm living in Arizona now, but I listen to you guys all the time online. So,
well, thank you so much for that, Butch, and thanks for rooting for the Cardinals. That's great that you've still kept that baseball loyalty. Ed, we have time for just one more question. This one came in from Shyla in unincorporated West County, and she just wanted to know, where did you do all of your research? She's especially interested, because I know we don't have time for all of that in this final minute here, but where did you get the research on the semi-pro teams that you cover so well in this book?
Well, a lot of it is I grew up with him. I say in the book, my dad played professional baseball. I grew up in baseball, as I still play. But a lot of the semi-pro ball, when you look, especially since she's out in West County, she may be talking about Manchester, Baldwin, where these great semi-pro leagues of the 50s and 60s that, it was full of former pro ball players. A lot of it I get from experience, from scrapbooks from my dad and all his friends. They were all part of those great Beaumont teams, the great Stockholm American Legion teams. And, I had access to not only the Browns archives, the Cardinals archives, the Amateur Baseball Hall of Fame archives, the Khoury League archives, the CYC archives, and many of the schools. So we have touched pretty much every area. For the African-American experience, the Matthews Dickies Boys Club allowed me their archives. So, this thing is... As Whitey Herzog called me up the other night saying I couldn't put your book down. I was so deep into it.
That's
we even
quite a rave from a big name.
Yes, it is. We had the New Athens, Illinois archives, and I slipped in a ball from their trophy case when they played in the 49 state championship against Granite City. And there's the ball signed Relly Herzog. His name is really Dorrell. And he hadn't gone to Whitey yet. And there's the picture from the team. So we went everywhere, and I spent a lot of time just digging because I knew the story I wanted to tell. The book has got about 700 pages of these pictures, like autographed ball of these famous teams and players and their pictures, and that's kind of followed our Browns. For those who are familiar with the Browns book, they got picked as the best book published on baseball in 2017. This follows it exactly with the pictures and the vignettes.
And yes, the memorabilia in this book is just amazing. And so I really want to encourage all the baseball fans who've called in today. I know we didn't get to everybody, but if you're interested in knowing more, this book is from Reedy Press, Baseball in St. Louis. We have a link on our website. That's stlpublicradio.org for people who want more information. And Ed Wheatley, always such a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Sarah. Look forward to the next time.
This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio, 90.7 KWMU.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association. Missouri produces wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details on the variety of products made in the state are at choosewood.com.